seeing so many faces here from a diverse cross-section of Jersey. We've got cousins and friends from Guernsey as well, all over the place, and people who couldn't make it but sent their best wishes to our group. So without any further ado, what I'm going to do is hand over to Deputy Senator Mezec, who is the mover of the proposition. He's going to tell you about why he brought that proposition to the States and why he thinks that equality is important in Jersey. Thank you, sir.
LGBTQ rights is not just a Jersey struggle, it's a struggle across the world. We've all heard the horrific stories of what happens to people in certain countries who are executed just for acting upon their natural instincts, the feelings they were born with. Some countries they're put to death. So this isn't just about Jersey, it's about equality around the world. And Jersey, you people should be proud for being here to play your part in that. I'm going to end with one final but I think important point. Now, we all here love our island. That's why we're here. We want the best for it. But nothing in Jersey will change unless ordinary people make sure they have their voice heard. That's why it's so important to come to rallies like this. But it's also important to bear in mind, in October there is a general election. So when you know who the candidates in your parish are, whatever perspective they're from, left, right, centre, find out who they are, phone them, email them and ask them, do you support equal marriage? Because if you don't, you will not be getting my vote. The opportunity is before us in October, friends, so seize it. And next year we can hold another gay rights parade with Jersey's first gay and lesbian married couples. And what a fantastic day that will be. Thank you very much.
And we're very pleased that our Guernsey cousins over there have already started to coalesce and have got a great movement in Liberate, which is a pan-Channel Island group. So thank you, Martin.
Thank you, Monty, and thank you for inviting me over here today to speak to you. It's an honour to be here with you. I'd like to ask you a question. Did the earth move for you yesterday? Well, it did in Guernsey, and I think it's about to again. Anyway, I hope you bear with me. It's quite a long speech, but I would like to give it anyway. It's an honour for me to be here and address you today as a guest of Reform Jersey, as a fellow Channel Islander. I stand before you as a gay man who has been denied the same rights that you here seek today in Jersey's Liberation Square. I feel and I share your frustration, your anger and disappointment at the recent successful attempt by Senator Philip to delay the acceptance in principle of equal marriage in Jersey. I bring with me messages of solidarity from the General Secretary of the Trades Union Congress. I welcome my friends here from Unite today. The General Secretary of Trade Congress has written to the Chief Minister Ian Gorst supporting equal marriage and those unions organising in the Channel Islands who she represents. Teachers, police, manual workers, all the workers in the island who are represented by trade union organisations. I bring with me the support of the Channel Island group Liberate, which seeks to end discriminatory laws and policies within the islands, especially in terms of LGBTQ rights. I bring with me from across the water the good wishes of your fellow islanders in Guernsey, who wish and believe that one day we will all be free and equal, no one left behind. Article 1 of the United Nations Declaration on Human Rights states quite clearly, everyone is born free and equal in both dignity and rights. Yet today in Jersey we see that not every one of its citizens is treated equally. LGBTQ people in Jersey may have the right to enter into civil partnerships, but they are denied the most fundamental human right, the right to marry the person they love. I would like to share with you, if you would allow, a true story. It starts with a young boy who from an early age always knew that there was something different about him. He was attracted to people of the same sex. By the time he entered into his teens, he had a label for it. However, everyone he spoke to told him it was wrong, at home, at school, and in church. He would listen to prejudiced remarks from his peers. Words like faggot, queer, got bandied around with, dare I say it, gay abandon. The church was most vocal about it. He was told that anyone engaging in homosexual acts was damned to hellfire. He felt isolated and alone. He was bullied at school because other children knew there was something different about him. He was a happy child, but the feelings of isolation grew and grew throughout his teens and into adulthood. He felt ashamed about who he was. He became depressed. Several times he thought about ending his life. He remained so far in the closet that you could be forgiven for thinking he was in Narnia. During his early working life, he encountered further bullying and harassment, with 2 of his colleagues using threatening behaviour and trying to out him to his colleagues. Of course, he denied who he really was, but the feelings of isolation and fear grew. Then, at the age of 38, something life-changing happened to him. He was diagnosed with a brain tumour, which if left untreated would kill him. He became very ill. He would wake up at 3 o'clock in the morning in a cold sweat and confront his deepest fear of dying. He planned his funeral. And it was then, in his darkest hour, a ray of light shone through. He realised that his family, his friends and colleagues did not know who he truly was, that he was gay. It was at that... Sorry. And do you know his fears were unfounded? He came out, despite everything that he'd been through in his life, the prejudice, the venomous words of hatred, the bullying and the harassment. His friends, family and colleagues respected him for being truthful. Sure, he still encountered the odd, occasional homophobic or anti-gay remark, but he was stronger. He was the better person. He was no longer the victim of the playground bully. He had the inner strength to stand up for himself and for others like him. He would no longer be a bystander, but would challenge prejudice in all its unpleasant disguises. He decided to come out in typical drama queen style, on the front page of the Guernsey press, and challenged a doctor for suggesting all gay men were paedophiles. A doctor with an ethical duty of care for his patients, no matter what their sexual orientation. He was concerned what effect this doctor would have on anyone who was LGBTQ seeking medical advice. He reported him to the General Medical Council, where the doctor was investigated and duly given a warning about his professional conduct. And so, the brain tumour actually was the best thing that had ever happened to him. It was truly life-changing. Everything immediately became better. It was not long afterwards that he met the true love of his life and future husband, Mark, whom he married in Mark's home country of Wales. Because Guernsey does not have civil partnerships, or let alone recognise them in law. That person, as you no doubt have guessed, is me. My story is just one of many personal LGBTQ stories. Many do not have the happy ending that mine does. Today, it is still illegal to be gay in 81 countries throughout the world. In some, like Uganda, it is a capital offence. And only this week, over 60 people were rounded up and arrested on suspicion of being who they were, gay. Now, thankfully, our Channel Islands are not like Uganda, Nigeria, Iran, or even Russia, where you can be arrested for assembling for LGBTQ rights, as we are doing here today, where you can be attacked and tortured by vigilante mobs, or put to death simply for who you are. Yet our islands have known tyranny. They've known the ugly face of oppression during the Second World War. An estimated 50 to 100,000 LGBTQ people across Europe were forced to wear the infamous pink triangle. They were sent to concentration camps to be experimented upon, put into forced labour, and murdered in the gas chambers. However, despite our relative freedom, we still have social injustice. We are still oppressed and treated as second-class citizens. These discriminatory laws and policies only serve as the breeding grounds of intolerance, inequality, and hatred. The effect on the fabric of our society is devastating, yet society has yet to understand this simple truth. The LGBTQ community is known to be twice at risk of fear, anxiety, depression, self-harm, substance misuse, and suicide as our heterosexual counterparts. Why? Because of the feeling of isolation, because of the feeling of intolerance, and because of discriminatory behaviour. And it is this which has its roots in the discriminatory laws and practices. Society has yet to wake up to the fact that this is all costing us dearly, not just in terms of emergency care, acute care, mental health care, not to mention the cost to the other agencies involved, but in terms of damaged lives, in terms of those who live in the daily fear of being cast out by their families for who they are, or being ostracised by their friends, or bullied in the playground, or harassed at work. In the most extremes of cases, it results in LGBTQ people in taking their own lives, and the tragedy and devastation that leaves behind for family and friends that grieve. Our ancestors fought hard for peace and for our freedom. We stand today in Liberation Square. Yet the irony is that over 10% of our population are not truly free and equal in the eyes of the law. For too long we have seen our citizens disconnected from our political system, with less and less of us exercising our democratic right to vote, because an increasing number of people feel our politicians do not represent those who they were elected to serve. But make no mistake, apathy is a barrier to progress, reform and change. The vote in the States of Jersey Assembly, in which Home Affairs Minister Senator Lamarckon's proposition succeeded in delaying the acceptance of an in-principle decision to introduce equal marriage, is indicative of how out of touch Jersey's states are with those they serve. It also flies in the face of the Jersey Evening Post poll, in which 81% of islanders or readers supported equal marriage. It contradicts the spirit of your new anti-discrimination law. This, a proposition that came from a senator and minister who is on record as the only state's member to have voted against civil partnerships. However, there is another barrier, a far greater barrier: fear. Fear and prejudice are born out of ignorance. The fear in the state's chamber was evident, with talk of unintended consequences of introducing equal marriage. Fear is the biggest enemy of change. Now, I'm not sure whether some of those in the chamber subscribe to the chicken licking theory that one day the sky will fall on our heads if they vote in equal marriage. I am not sure whether they believe that we'll all be smitten by all sorts of biblical plagues and pestilences. I'm not sure whether they fear that the very earth quite ironic really, bearing in mind yesterday, on which they stand will tear apart. Or if you subscribe to the UKIP theory, that they will be deluged by floods of gay rain. I can assure them, though, that the sun will rise tomorrow and crops of Jersey Royal potatoes will be just fine. And then there is the most ugly side of this debate which we have seen in recent weeks. The myths of hatred being promulgated by the Jersey Evangelical Alliance, which are so far from the Bible's central message of love thy neighbour as thyself. They believe that somehow if we introduce equal marriage, we will descend into a culture of infidelity and promiscuity. So let me send a message to the Reverend Mike Taylor and the Jersey Evangelical Alliance. We, in the LGBTQ community, are no more promiscuous than anyone else. Those of us who wish to enter into marriage do not do so on a whim. No, we do so because we want to declare our love for each other, to celebrate it and demonstrate our commitment to each other. I believe we would do so with more thought and consideration because this is something we are actually fighting for. I believe as a community we are more likely to uphold the principles of marriage, unconditional love, faithfulness and support, as we have never had this right before and value it highly. Children are not part of every marriage. Marriage is not only for the procreation of the next generation. We will never take this for granted and believe it will have a positive impact on society. The only thing that will happen if gay marriage is introduced is gay people will get married. Yet despite our shock and indignation at the rhetoric used against us, despite our anger at this clear deceit, despite the fact that although the Jersey Evangelical Alliance hastily backtracked on its ignorant comments without the grace of an apology to those of us that they offended, today we turn the other cheek and say to the Reverend Taylor and his alliance, we forgive you. For in the words of the late Nobel Peace Prize laureate Nelson Mandela, forgiveness frees the soul. We reach out to you and all other faith groups to begin a constructive dialogue of mutual understanding. We offer you a sign of our peace and friendship. It's a bit like aliens coming to Earth, isn't it? Not to do so, we will only breed division, hatred and intolerance of one another. That, my friends, is a path to true destruction. Instead, we seek healing and reconciliation. As Martin Luther King, black civil rights activist, once said, darkness cannot drive out darkness. Only light can do that. Hate cannot drive out hate. Only love can do that. To the Reverend Mike Taylor, I say this. In future, back up your opinions with fact. Yes, we respect your right to hold the beliefs you do, no matter how much we may disagree with them. But do not use lies to deny us the fundamental right to marry the person we love. We will respect your beliefs, but we will challenge each and every one of those which has no foundation. Not long now. And so I come to the word marriage and the controversy that has caused within some of the established churches. To some, we are jeopardising the traditional institution of marriage, which they see as between a man and a woman, and in the words of the Roman Catholic Church and the Dean of Jersey, an institution that is life-giving. However, they conveniently forget that marriage predates Christianity. If you look in any dictionary, you'll see that there are many definitions of the word marriage. Our opponents in this debate believe that the equal marriage law threatens the very fabric of family life. But I would ask you a simple question. How? And what sort of family disowns its own child for being lesbian, gay, bisexual or transgender? As Senator Ozouf said in his speech in the Assembly, there are many LGBTQ people or parents who have given children a loving and stable home by fostering or adopting them because of their heterosexual parents could not give them a stable environment in which to grow. We give life to those who would otherwise be left in social care. If we took the Old Testament word for word, as some do in our Christian community, we would not eat shellfish, wear mixed fibres, allow tattoos, and we would still have slavery. In the context of the traditional understanding of marriage, we would allow the masters of slaves to force female slaves to marry male slaves, and we would allow rapists to marry their victims. The Old Testament and books like Leviticus and Deuteronomy were written by man for man. They are the interpretation of man's understanding of God. They are the laws of the Levites and other tribes which have long since been buried in the sands of time. But laws, policies and our interpretation of our language change with time as our understanding grows as a species of the world and universe around us. Some church leaders, though, believe in an orthodox view and are resistant to change. They believe that they have some exclusive or God-given right to protect certain words, such as marriage, so that our interpretation of those words aligns with their beliefs. But the world has moved forward, and its understanding of psychology, science and genetics is no longer in the Dark Ages. Whilst I'm on the subject of church leaders, and this isn't a church-bashing speech, I promise you, I would like to dispel another myth that was promulgated in the States Assembly by one religious speaker who said that he spoke for all faith groups. Forgive me, but I thought I heard on the radio that the Quakers were one such group that supports equal marriage. Speaking about the denial of LGBTQ rights, Nobel Peace Prize laureate Archbishop Desmond Tutu recently said, "I oppose such injustice with the same passion as I oppose apartheid. For those of you who don't remember, apartheid was the segregation of white and black people and one of our greatest social injustices of our time. Only 50 years ago, governments were having the same issue over interracial marriage and using the same reasons to justify their beliefs." Archbishop Tutu also said, "I cannot worship a homophobic God." So I say to you all gathered here today, in Jersey, the wind of change is happening right here, right now. It is sweeping across every continent, every nation and every isle. It is touching the lives of each man, woman and child. What is that change? That change is the fight for equality, for all of us to be treated fairly and equally in both dignity and rights. The fact that you have chosen to come out in force here today is a demonstration of that willingness to change, that commitment, that each of you who have felt that wind of change are rising up for your beliefs. Another Nobel Prize winner, Mahatma Gandhi, once said, "You have to be the change you wish to see in the world." We cannot sit and wait for change. We have to be part of that change we seek. So talk to your family and friends. Encourage them to be part of this historic period of change. From the sleeping villages of Gorey and St Catherine's to the bustling streets of St Helier. Question your elected representatives and candidates in your forthcoming elections. Get out there and exercise your vote. Organise yourselves. We at Liberate can help you do that. We'd love for you to have a Jersey branch of Liberate. And above all, sign our petition online at www.liberate.gg. For if you do not do so, make no mistake, apathy will reign and the status quo will remain. Today we are on the verge of making history in our Channel Islands and have taken another step forward to a society in which each and every one of us will one day be free and equal. A day when one day it will not matter what your gender is, what your gender identity is, what your sexual orientation is, your colour, your disability, or your belief. Every one of us will be equal. Thank you for listening to me so patiently.
15 years ago, we did not have equality in all sorts of areas. The age of consent, we did not even have civil partnerships. There was discrimination in all departments of the state. Much of that has gone. A lot has been done, but there is more to do. Sam and I, who worked together on the debate earlier this week, were thwarted by a number of minority states members. I believe that we can fix this. I believe that we can move on. And I will commit to working with ministerial colleagues and Sam to find a solution to legislation that will work, that will give equality in the eyes of the state for all relationships.